Holy shit. Game wrapped up maybe 5-10 minutes ago, and for the first time in a little while, this feels good. For the first time since probably the Texans game, we're coming out of a Seahawks game, and we can genuinely, honestly feel good. Not only for the game we just saw, but for the games that we hope to be seeing in the future. Now, Eagles come into Seattle feeling good about themselves. They're 5-point favorites. They're the top team in the NFC. They're on a 9-game winning streak, and 24-10, guys. Seattle Seahawks found a way to get it done, holding one of the best offenses in football to 10 points, forcing a couple key turnovers, and offensively keeping the mistakes to a minimum and maximizing on a few really strong drives. So this is the game that I've been waiting for them to play for a good portion of this season. This is a game where it feels like the talent that we have comes together to really help mask the talent that we don't have, especially now after all the injuries. And it feels good. It bodes well for the future. First off, first thing you want to talk about is my pregame video. I said that the two guys who were going to have to save us tonight were Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. Basically, I feel pretty good about that with the way this game went, because we got a really great game from Russell Wilson. This is the Russell Wilson that I want. He's consistent over 4 quarters. His numbers tonight are not amazing. They're very, very good, don't get me wrong, but he didn't throw for 500 yards or anything like that. But we came out in that first quarter, that first drive of the game. He converts 2 third downs. He's hitting Paul Richardson. He hit Doug Baldwin for a 3rd down conversion. He moved down the field. We kicked a field goal. And right away, we're just feeling pretty good about this team because they functioned as a unit on that first drive. Right away, I felt like this team had shown up because we scored a field goal. Just those 3 points on that first drive of the game. And he stayed on point for basically the whole game. At the end of that first quarter, he hit Jimmy Graham for the short touchdown. Later in the game, he hit Doug Baldwin for the 50-yard play where, the cover 0 blitz, which I hesitate to give opposing teams advice, but don't blitz 8 people against Russell Wilson. He beats it every time. Every time he beats that cover 0 blitz. And at the end of this game, 60 minutes, the only thing that Russell Wilson really did wrong this whole game was when he ran backwards and threw the ball out of bounds and got called for intentional grounding on a play that could have easily been a fumble, easily been a turnover, easily been a complete disaster. That play ended up being bad. It could have been much worse. That was the only thing. Because other than that, dude was on point pretty much the whole game. And that is the Russell Wilson that I want. I want the Russell Wilson that gives us 10 first quarter points and continues to pour it on as the game goes on and do enough for us to get a win against a really good Eagles team. Offensive line, sometimes you get Luke Joeckel getting manhandled by Brandon Graham, which happened at least once in this game. They are improving. The run blocking, it's not quite what we want yet, but we're seeing some steps in the right direction there. And the pass blocking against this Eagles front, this is about as good as it's going to get. I have to say, I think they did their job. Mike Davis, solid game from him. He can continue to be the main running back on this team, the starting running back. He continues to show that he can be a threat in the passing game and a little bit of a threat in the running game. It's exciting to watch after all these games of watching Eddie Lacy just hit the hole and fall down after 2 yards. He gives us a little bit of competency there where we didn't have any. So yeah, this was the 4 quarters of offense that I wanted. I didn't want to see an offense that waited until the second quarter to get going. I didn't want to see one that waited until the second half. I wanted to see an offense that could just go. And tonight we got that. there was urgency in this offense, and hats off to all people involved, all parties involved. Bevel, Wilson, Carroll. That was the offense I wanted to see. And the other guy, Pete Carroll, obviously he deserves credit for the win in general because he's in charge of the team, but this defense, which has problems everywhere right now, we don't have all the defensive linemen that we thought we were going to have. We don't have near the secondary that we were expecting to have. We gave up a lot of yards tonight through the air. Carson Wentz threw for nearly 350, although some of it was in garbage time. The Philly offensive line is a great unit, even without Jason Peters. They've got phenomenal running backs. They've got good receivers. And he cooked something up to hold the Eagles to 10 points. And we got lucky a few times. I mean, the Eagles went for it on 4th down a couple times, didn't get it. They had the fumble at the 1-yard line. They had the pick in the end zone. I understand. But we got a good game from Frank Clark rushing the passer. He had 2 sacks and a couple other pressures. Sheldon Richardson was a monster against the run, and he forced that one fumble at the 1-yard line that really turned this game around. Byron Maxwell, Byron Maxwell is not really a good player at this point in his career. He's not. He got burned twice on 3rd and long on that lone Eagles touchdown drive. Maxwell, they just ran past him for the long play. That's Maxwell right now. He's not going to be able to keep up down the field, but somehow Pete Carroll, Chris Richard, whoever you want to give credit for, they're getting the best that they can out of Byron Maxwell. And today, you saw some of the ugliness, but you also saw him make some good plays out there. Bobby Wagner, obviously, probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now, especially after tonight. Bradley McDougald made some mistakes tonight, but he recovered big time, made some big plays down the stretch. No problem with the game that he played, filling in admirably for Cam Chancellor. Shaquille Griffin, he gives up stuff here and there, but he continues to fight and compete and play good football. Justin Coleman with a nice blitz off the edge for the sack that almost helped us put this game away. That ended up coming on the drive where the Eagles converted the 2 3rd and longs. And in a game where we could have easily just been run over, swamped over by an Eagles offensive line that is just physically dominant, we didn't let it happen. And I'm going to give a shout out to Pete Carroll for that. So those 2 guys, they saved us. We needed somebody to bail us out tonight. They bailed us out. So now the win feels great. Beating a great team like the Eagles feels phenomenal. Winning this game at home, winning it by 2 touchdowns feels really, really good. We need to talk about a few things about this game before we feel too good about ourselves, because next week we got the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville. That's a good defense, probably the best defense in football. Then we got the Rams. We got the Cowboys when they get Zeke back, who may or may not be in the playoff race at that point. So let's not get too full of ourselves here. Let's understand. This might have been the game that I've been talking about all year where the officials get us one. I'm just trying to be real with you guys. I'm not trying to hate. I'm not trying to diminish anything. This was a great win. Look, there was some dubious stuff out there. Namely, Russell Wilson's 3rd down lateral that looked like it might have gone forward. Personally, as somebody who graduated college and took a physics class once upon a time, I think he probably pitched it backwards, but it ended up going forwards because of his forward momentum. But regardless, the ball looked like it went forward. We had a couple pass interference and holding calls and blocking the back calls go our way. It seemed like they were getting the Eagles for some stuff they weren't getting us on. I don't want to diminish anything. I'm very impressed that this team managed to commit a relatively few amount of penalties compared to previous games. I think for the most part we played a pretty clean game. I'm pleased with that, but look, there was some stuff in this game that could have made this game a lot closer, and that doesn't even get into the fact that Wentz missed some touchdown throws tonight that were just wide open. He had Aguilar early in the game, completely missed him, whiffed on him. He had Barner for what was probably going to be a 4th down touchdown, missed him. Let's keep things in balance here when we're evaluating this game, because Wilson played great. The offensive line held up. Doug Baldwin made some big plays. Frank Clark was a monster. Bobby Wagner was a monster. We can say all those things. Let's just try to remember going forward that nothing's going to come easy, because however heroically they played, the secondary still got picked apart throughout this game by Carson Wentz. He had a monster game, 350 passing yards. And the margins are thin, guys. The margins are thin. But right now is the time to feel good, because this team went out there against a great team and they won. We saw consistency from the offense. We saw consistency from the defense. We saw turnovers in crucial moments of the game. We saw big plays being made by our best players. And we are 8-4 with the opportunity to finish the season strong. So that's the main takeaway today. That's what I got for y'all. Big win. Big win. Shout out to the entire roster tonight, except for John Ryan. John Ryan, you got to get a little better at this stuff. You're not having your best year. I already said bye-bye to Steven Hauska last year, which looks like we made a mistake, but regardless, I don't want to be saying goodbye to you at the end of the year, but step it up. Shout out to Blair Walsh, by the way, for making a long field goal, or a long-ish field goal. I know, his mind must be, killing him right now, but he knocked it through for us. Shout out to Tyler Lockett for roping in the 3rd and goal touchdown on a play that really looked like it was not going anywhere. And tonight's the night to celebrate, boys.